Hello and welcome back, my lovely nail friends. Today's video is a little bit different. I will not be doing a mani in this video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how I prepped and filled and then reshaped these full coverage tips. They started out as sharp, short, square tips from 𝕙𝕟𝓼𝓼. I had originally dipped these a few weeks back, and I will link that video up in the cards for you. But as I mentioned in that video, I did have some issues with constant chipping on the corners, and the shape was beginning to drive me a little crazy. So I decided that I would reshape them into short coffins, and this is how we're gonna get from there to here. So we're going to start with my prep process, how I clean up my full coverage tips and then fill them so that I can do another mani and get another week or so out of my full coverage tips. And then we'll get into how I reshape them. So first, I'm going to show you the tools that I'm going to be using for this whole process. And I'm going to start out by prepping my cuticle area. And I like to use my glass cuticle pusher first, and then I'm going to go in with this fine carbide bit, and I believe this one is from iGel Beauty, and I use this bit to take down some of the bulk around my cuticle area, but only on the tip. I do not touch my natural nail with that. I then go in with this much gentler diamond bit, and I use that bit to clean off any of the dead cuticle on my nail bed, and it is a better bit for that purpose. So then we're going to get into nail files, and I do like to use a finer grit nail file for this. I have the 180-240. This is another version of that. This one is one of those peel and stick nail files. And then I have one that's a 100-180 grit, and I mostly just use the 180 and the 240 grit for this purpose. I just feel like 100 grit always leaves kind of a jagged edge on these full coverage tips, so I prefer not to use the more coarse grit on these nail files. For that reason, I just think I get a smoother edge with the higher grit. Oh, and so let me just explain, if you don't know, the lower the number, the coarser the grit, and the higher the number, the finer the grit. So 240 would be very fine, 100 would be coarse. So I thought I'd explain that just in case. What I'm doing now is I'm using my glass cuticle pusher to push back my cuticles, and then I'm using the pointier end to kind of scrape away any of that dead cuticle that might be on the nail bed there or has grown up close to the full coverage tip, because I am going to be going in with that carbide bit I showed you, and I'm going to be cleaning up the bulk of that full coverage tip, and I don't want there to be any cuticle in the way or for that carbide bit to come anywhere near my eponychium or my proximal nail fold. And as I explained, that carbide bit is only going to be used at a very low speed to clean up the bulk of that full coverage tip, because I want it to lay flat and I want to get rid of any lifting that there might be. But I am not touching my natural nail with this bit at all. As I always do, I am using my pinky to anchor the hand holding the e-file, and that gives me more stability more stability while using the e-file, and that way I don't risk injuring myself. I'm so glad you all have so much patience with me, because sometimes wording is hard. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break and let my tongue rest a bit, because apparently I'm struggling. But I am going to show you this process on my thumb and on my index finger, and I think that I do the rest off camera so that we can move on to the next part of this process. Now that I've taken down some of the bulk, I'm going to go in with this diamond needle bit. And this bit is wonderful for cleaning up your sidewalls and for really getting around the cuticle area and taking up all that dead cuticle that may still be left on the nail bed after using your cuticle pusher, because sometimes they can be a little stubborn, those cuticles. But I like to get my nail bed as clean as possible because that means I am less likely to have lifting, and nobody wants lifting, right? We want to make sure that our nail beds are safe and that there is no chance for moisture to seep up under that extension and cause Pseudomonas, also known as greenies. We definitely want to avoid that. So that is why I am going through this whole process to remove the bulk of the cuticle area of these extensions, make sure they are sitting against my nail as flush as possible, and that I am removing all of the dead cuticle from my nail plate. Now that I'm done with my e-file and I've dusted everything off, I'm going to go in with some pH prep or dehydrator, whatever you want to call it. This is the one from 𝕎𝕝𝕟𝕟𝕟𝕟. I just happen to have an abundance of it, so I use that to just kind of swipe across my cuticle area, make sure I haven't missed anything. It really does a good job of kind of cleaning up the dust and removing all the dust, but it doesn't leave behind any cloudiness or white film like isopropyl alcohol can sometimes. So that's why I was doing that. I use that actually throughout my mani process a lot of the times after filing, just to kind of clean it up and see if I've missed anything. pH prep or dehydrator is great for that purpose. So what I'm doing now is I'm going in with my 180 grit nail file, and I was just cleaning up the surface of the extensions to make sure that there's no residual product from my last mani on there. And now I'm just going to clean everything up again, and we're going to get into some shaping now. So I'm going to use the 180 side of this peel and stick nail file. I got this one out of the last, was it the last one or maybe the one before that? One of the most recent Sparkle & Co sub bags. This was one of the gifts inside of that. I'm going to see if I can find it on their website. I'm not sure if they offer it. If not, I am sure that I can find one somewhere else, and I will link it down in the description box. This is my first time ever using one, but I really like it. I actually really like it a lot, and I think it creates a really nice, smooth, straight edge because it doesn't bend like a lot of the emery board type files do. So I really, really enjoyed using it. I'm not sure that I would love it as much for shaping my dip powder, but as far as creating like my free edge, my flat free edge, and for shaping the actual extensions themselves, I really do like it. So I'm gonna have to see if I can find more of these. I don't know. I really like it. So I'm trying really, really hard to stay in frame. I'm really sorry. I did not do a very good job of that. You're gonna see I do better with the thumb, but once I get to like the index finger, it just kind of goes downhill from there. I think I was forgetting that I was filming. Even wearing my cheater readers, I still am, visually impaired. So I do tend to file really close to my face. And so trying to stay in frame and do that at the same time was a little bit challenging. So let me just talk a little bit about my process for this. Okay, so I am trying to hold the nail file at the angle that I want my tip to go. And I'm not just filing straight, but I'm filing kind of at an angle. I'm filing up underneath the edge of the nail, and I'm filing around the top of it, because we don't want this to be a straight flat edge. We still want to keep that C curve. So you're going to see me going at this from all angles. And I think that is the key to not losing your C curve for this shape, because those square tips had a pretty solid C curve. So I just wanted to make sure that I kept as much of that as possible while tapering in the free edge a bit more. I hope that makes sense and that you can see what I'm doing as I'm filing. I honestly don't have much more to say about that. I just think that you have to kind of hold your finger at as many angles as possible. Look at it from every direction. Look down the barrel. Look from the side view. Hold it, towards you with your nail, the free edge pointing down, so that you can kind of see the shape like I am right here. And only take a little bit off of each side at a time. Like, don't go hog wild on one side and then try to make the other side match. I like to just do a little bit on one side and then do a little bit on the other side and try to keep it as even as possible. That way you don't end up overdoing it on one side, and then when you try to match the other side, you end up with this really misshapen, skinny, off-kilter nail. Do you know what I mean? I just hope I'm explaining this clearly enough to all of you, but I am going to take a moment, step back, let you finish watching me shape these. In and out of frame. I'm so sorry. I'll be back in a bit. Once I get the shape where I want it, I'm going to dust off, and then I'm going to go in with my dip base and I'm going to do my fill. I find this the best way to do a fill for me because I am not a gel user, so I don't use builder gel or any other kind of gel. I know a lot of people who do that, but since I don't use gel, I'm just going to use my dip base, and some people also do a dip and clear. I personally find that that just creates a lot of unnecessary bulk, and that one or maybe two layers of dip base is more than enough to seal up those edges and prevent lifting. All right, my base is dry and I am ready for my next mani, which was my last upload. So if you're interested in seeing that, I will link that up in the cards for you. And the next installment will be how I remove my full coverage tips. So keep your eyes open for that. I do hope that you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, or if you have any experiences with reshaping your full coverage tips, I'd love to hear those down in the comments below. I'd also really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up. It really does help my channel grow. And if you haven't already, I do hope that you'd consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye now.